All right, guys, wanted to make a little video here for you. This is something that happened to me when I was 13 years old, and just kind of bear with me here because there's still some things that baffle me about this arrest still to this day that just, makes me wonder what in the world was going on. And you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about here in a little bit. So, when I was 13 years old, I had a friend of mine that I used to stay at all the time. And there was a neighbor kid around there that we knew that might have been a year older. So it was like 13, and 14, something like that. 13, 15, something like that was our ages. And there was an abandoned school somewhere. I don't even remember where it was. I didn't live in that town where my friend lived. But we decided that we was going to go into the school the next day. It was just an abandoned school. I really didn't know much about it. The structure was fine, and that's about all I knew. So we go to this school the next day at some point, and we get right in. Thinking back on it now to this day, there wasn't any no trespassing signs, which really doesn't matter. You still can't go into a place like that. But just for word of reference, you're going to find out why I'm telling you this later on in the story. So just bear with me because it gets a little more interesting, at least to me it does. So there was no signs anywhere posted, no yellow signs with black writing saying no trespassing or anything like that. I don't remember exactly how we got in, but at 13, I was a bigger kid. Still at that time, I was bigger even that young, and I know I didn't climb through anything. I didn't climb through a window or anything like that. What I remember about it was I do remember that, a lot of the windows were broken, and you could just tell that it wasn't being used. It was a brick building. Structurally, it looked sound, but it wasn't being used. Cannot remember exactly how we got in, but I know I walked right in. I know that. And then what we did when we got in there, we walked around. There was graffiti everywhere. Classrooms still had desks, old desks in them. We didn't tear up anything. I think we sat on some desks, and but we didn't have no paint. We just had on jeans and a t-shirt, and we didn't have any kind of spray paint or anything, and we didn't tear up anything in there. I think we went up and looked at the roof and then came back down. All of a sudden, all these cops are coming through the building. I really didn't think that much of it too much when the cops were coming there. Like I said, being 13, I really wasn't thinking too much about everything. So the cops come in there and they get us. And as they're walking us out, there's quite a few cops. I remember that there was a guy in a suit. And that stood out to me because I was like, wow, somebody high up came out here. Somebody high up in the department came out to this old abandoned school where we were in. And while I was in the school, everything was structurally sound. Nothing was unsafe to be in. There was nothing that was dangerous or could get you hurt. Everything was intact. The structure was all there, just graffiti everywhere. But I remember this guy with the suit. And I remember him complaining about something about when he went in, he got dirt on his pant leg. Saying something like he's going to send us the dry cleaning bill or something. I can't remember. But believe it or not, 13 years old, they took us outside. I got handcuffed for walking into that building and walking around. I got handcuffed. We all got put into separate police cars, taken to the station, got a charge, took us in where they book people, got a charge for it, called our parents, which to me was the worst part, made our parents come pick us up. The good thing was my dad kind of seen through everything and didn't treat it like it was some big deal, something, extraordinarily big deal, because it actually really wasn't, to me, that big of a thing. I guess my dad just figured, kids were just going in to look at something, and that's what we were doing. We were just going in to kind of look around and stuff. Then after that, I had a court date. I had to go before a judge. And basically, here's what happened. The charge I got was about the equivalency of a traffic ticket. And I remember it was a woman judge. And she said that if I didn't trespass in a year's time, that it would be totally off of my record. It was like the lowest misdemeanor trespass charge you could get. It was basically a charge of like walking into somewhere you shouldn't be. And, that's it. No breaking and entering, of course. We did none of that. We didn't break anything. We didn't break anything inside. It was like the lowest trespassing charge you could get. And basically like a traffic ticket. But it was going off my record in 1 year if I didn't trespass again. And I've never had a trespassing in my life, of course, after that. But here's what baffles me to this day. Such a big, huge deal was made over this ordeal by the police that day. And I'm not saying that we didn't do anything wrong, because we did. But I just think it should have been handled differently at that age, and them seeing that we didn't actually do any harm when we went in there or do anything. I think that should have been taken into account. I don't think that at 13 years old, just finding me in an empty building was cause for me to be handcuffed behind my back, driven in a police car to the station, and have to go before a judge and all this stuff. Maybe you think I'm biased because it was me. I don't feel that way. I just feel that not everything is black and white by the book, and sometimes every time, and each circumstance is different and has different things to it that you have to look at. You can't just kind of say this, you do this, all the way straight down the line. There's always different circumstances for each thing that happens. And that's why they say more Andy Griffith, less Barney, right? Because Andy Griffith did things the smart way, instead of trying to run in at everybody and saying, this is the law, this is the code of the law that you broke, I can get you with, and I'm going to come in full bore, and I'm going to put it to you and do all I can. Even though we know it was just a fake show, Andy Griffith did things more with wisdom and than going strictly by the book. Now, of course, if it's a hardcore crime or something like that, of course, you have to do everything that way. But every circumstance and every situation is different. And I do remember this, because at one point I thought, everything's going to be okay. When they took us out of the building, I distinctly remember one of the cops saying, should I just take him home? And then I remember the guy in the suit going over and standing with them for a minute where I couldn't hear, and I knew right then it was over. I was like, that ain't happening. And then that's when they cuffed us behind our back and put us in separate police cars and took us to the police station. Now, you asked me what my opinion is on something like that. In my opinion, what should have been done, other than the paperwork on the whole ordeal, in my opinion, what should have happened was they get taken home, and the parent or guardian gets talked to and says, look, this is what happened. I'm bringing your child home. They're fine. There's no harm to them. They were inside of the building they weren't supposed to be in. And if they ever are caught in there again, I have to take them to the station, and they will get a trespassing charge at that time, and they'll have to go before a judge. That's what I would have done. Especially I mean, we weren't saying anything. We were total and absolute cooperative. That's another thing. We were as cooperative as could be. When they was handcuffing us, I was head down, hands behind my back, all three of us. Head down, looking at the ground, hands behind our back, arms limp as could be so they could cuff us any way they needed to. I don't understand it. You know, and that's why another thing, I don't want to make this political, but some people try to say that certain people get more advantages than other people. Well, you tell me what my advantage was that night, being 13 years old and handcuffed behind my back for walking into an empty building through an open door. And getting taken down to the station where they book criminals and then having to go before a judge for walking into an empty building. So, I guess I'll get off of that point. But my whole point of the ordeal is I just never can understand why they went so hard on that day. I feel that, look, man, I feel that sometimes you got to give people the benefit of the doubt on things. You got to de-escalate. You got to work with people. There's a lot of different things you have to do if you want to deal with people and law enforcement and other things. It's not just a by-the-book, black and white situation. You know, there's a lot of different things that come into play. There's all kinds of judgments and decisions that can be made on a case-to-case basis for different things that you're going to encounter. It's going to happen all the time. So why that they went that tough on literal kids always to this day boggles my mind. Let me know what you think. Maybe I'm just biased because it was me. Maybe I'm not. Like I said, it never was on my record. After a year, it was totally gone. Never affected me in any way. It was about the equivalent of a traffic ticket. But let me know. How do you feel about it? And what would you do if you were law enforcement and there were three kids totally cooperative and listening to every command without hesitation, and they were inside of a building and didn't hurt a thing, didn't graffiti, had on t-shirts and jeans, no paint, no nothing, and didn't tear anything up? What would you do if you was called to that scene and you walked in there and they were just strolling down the hallway looking around, and you could tell they were scared. You could tell they were scared when you came in and they listened to everything you said. What would you do? I'm very curious about that. Put it in the comments down below. All right, guys, let me know what you think. Until next time, this is DOF, and I am out.